To get notifications of more interesting stories like this, kindly like and subscribe. The sun rose red over Aya village, and the market woke like a drum. Stalls opened. Baskets of mango, yam, and pepper filled the paths. Women tied wrappers. Men rolled drums to the square. Amina walked with her mother, Mama Ife, who sold roasted maize. Amina loved the music of the market, the jokes, the claps, the bargaining. But that morning something felt wrong. The first trader to sell that day, Baba Kori, gave out smiles and counted coins. Then he tried to thank his buyer. No sound came out. His mouth moved like a fish. He touched his throat and stared. People laughed at first, thinking it was a joke. It was not. Others sold their goods, and one by one, their voices went quiet. A chill touched Amina's neck. She looked at the old well at the edge of the market, covered with a cracked wooden lid. The lid shook a little like it was breathing. No wind blew. Amina squeezed her mother's hand. "Mama," she whispered, "the market is listening." By noon, fear walked on every path. Some traders tried to whisper. Nothing came. Some tried to sing. Only silence came back like a wall. The drummer, Ikenna, tapped his talking drum to calm the people. He shaped the words with his beats. "Do not fear. We will find help." But even the drum sounded weak, as if the air refused to carry the sound. Mama Ife covered her tray and pulled Amina close. "We will not sell today," she said. "Let us go home." As they turned, a woman in a blue head wrap stopped them. She was called Ada Blue because she always wore that color. "Do you hear it?" Ada asked, eyes wide. "The old well is humming." Amina listened. A soft hum pressed at the ear, like a song trapped underwater. Elder Nwaka, who knew old stories, hit his staff on the ground. "No one goes near that well," he warned. "Not today. Not ever." But his warning came too late. A small curious boy had already placed his ear on the lid. The boy jumped back and ran, eyes wet, voice missing. People gasped. Ada Blue shook. "We need the chief," she said. They carried the silent traders to the shade. They fanned them. They gave them water. Nothing changed. Even their coughs made no sound. Chief Obi arrived in a long white cloth. He was a proud man who liked big words and bigger hand waves. He opened his mouth to speak to the crowd. His voice was normal. "Keep calm," he said. "We will call the priest." He turned to Elder Nwaka. "Bring the shrine drum." Elder Nwaka looked at the well and then at the sky. "Chief," he said, "this is not a small trouble. It smells like a promise that was broken long ago." The chief frowned. He did not like old stories. He liked new roads and new money. "We will fix it," he said in a slow voice, as if the market was a stubborn goat. He walked to the well and tapped the lid with his staff. The wood gave a deep, angry tone. That night Amina could not sleep. The market's silence had climbed into her chest. She dreamt of a woman standing under the baobab. The woman wore ankle bells that did not ring. Her mouth moved, but her song stayed inside like a bird locked in a calabash. The woman held up a broken gourd and pointed to the well. Amina woke with a cry. Mama Ife held her. "You shook like a leaf," her mother said. "Tell me." Amina told her about the woman with the quiet bells and the broken gourd. Mama Ife's face changed. She looked at the corner where a small clay pot sat with white chalk marks. "Your grandmother once told me a story," she said softly. "Long ago, a singer named Ifeoma came to Aya. Her voice brought rain. Her song kept babies from fever. People begged for more. The chief then took her calabash of song as a gift to the market, but he did not return it when she asked. She left with tears and a curse. When the market eats a voice, it will not give it back until my calabash is made whole." Morning came with heavy clouds. The traders gathered again, afraid but hungry. People must eat even in fear. They tried to sell without speaking, using fingers and nods. But each time coins changed hands, another voice went dark. Even buyers began to lose their voices, one by one. Panic rose like smoke. Amina watched Ada Blue touch her throat in shock after selling a basket of peppers. No sound came. Ada's eyes filled. Amina ran to her and held her hand. Elder Nwaka arrived with a small bundle wrapped in cloth. He opened it and showed a half of a calabash, old and cracked. "This," he said, "was found near the well many years ago. We kept it in the shrine. I think it is Ifeoma's." The chief rolled his eyes. "Just a broken bowl," he said. But when the elder lifted the half, the humming grew louder, like the well was trying to speak. Even the chief stepped back. The half calabash trembled in the elder's hand as if it missed its other half. "Where is the other piece?" Amina asked. She felt heat in her chest, the kind that comes when you know a path is calling you. Elder Nwaka sighed. "No one knows," he said. "Some say the chief's father kept it. Some say it fell into the well." Chief Obi stiffened. "My father was a good man," he said, but his voice carried a small shake. Amina remembered the dream. The woman's ankle bells. The broken gourd. The baobab. "Maybe the tree knows," she whispered. People stared. She was only a child. But the market had already taken many voices. They were ready to listen to even a child who still had sound. The elder nodded slowly. "At sunset," he said, "we go to the baobab." The chief made a face, then waved his hand. "Go and ask your tree," he said. "But after that we will close the well with stones." Amina looked at the cracked lid. Closing a mouth does not stop a tongue. She knew this in a way she could not explain. At sunset, the sky held a purple bruise. The village came to the baobab. Women carried lanterns. Men carried drums. The silent ones walked too, holding their throats like broken gourds. Elder Nwaka sat at the roots and placed the half calabash on his lap. "If the tree remembers, let it remember now," he said. He tapped the calabash with his finger. Amina stepped forward. She remembered the woman in her dream. "Ifeoma," she called gently. "We are sorry." The wind moved through the leaves and made a sound like a sigh. Small boy pointed. "Look," he mouthed. Fireflies gathered above the elder's head, forming a faint shape, the outline of ankle bells. The silent traders fell to their knees. The chief swallowed. Amina closed her eyes and listened not with her ears but with the quiet inside her. A soft word floated up like a bubble rising through water. "Return." She opened her eyes. "She wants the other half back," she said. "Not to the chief. Not to the shrine. To her resting place." "Where is her resting place?" Mama Ife asked. Elder Nwaka rubbed chalk on his palm and blew it. The powder made a pale cloud that drifted toward the old well. People shook their heads. No one wanted to go near it again. The silent ones clutched each other. The humming grew louder, as if the well was happy to be noticed. The chief tried to sound brave. "We will send men," he said. But his feet did not move. Amina lifted the half calabash. Felt warm like a small animal. She looked at the well. She remembered Ifeoma's quiet bells. She thought of Ada Blue's tears and the boy who lost his voice. "I will go," Amina said. The words surprised even her. Mama Ife grabbed her shoulders. "No, child," she said. "You are not a goat for the forest." Amina squeezed her mother's fingers. "I will not go alone," she said softly and turned to the crowd. "Who will stand with me but not speak? We must not sell fear to fear." Ikenna, the drummer, raised his hand. "I will drum," he said. "I cannot let a child walk into a curse alone." Ada Blue nodded, tears shining. She touched her chest and then pointed to Amina, promising to follow. Elder Nwaka stood, bones clicking like dry sticks. "Take the chalk, the raffia, and the kola nut," he said. "Do not shout. Do not bargain. If the well asks for payment, return what was stolen." The chief finally cleared his throat. "Take my guard," he said, pointing to two tall men with spears. "If a snake rises, cut it." Amina shook her head. "No spears," she said. "This is not a fight for iron." The guards lowered their eyes. The crowd parted as Amina, Ikenna, Ada Blue, and Elder Nwaka walked toward the well. The silent traders followed a little, then stopped. The humming deepened, and the ground under Aya Market felt like a drumhead ready to break. They reached the well. The cracked lid shivered like a cold animal. Ikenna placed his drum on the ground and touched it lightly. "We will talk in the language of skins," he said. He beat a slow heart sound, dum dum dum, steady and kind. Elder Nwaka drew a white ring on the ground with chalk and put the half calabash at the center. Ada Blue placed kola nut beside it, then bowed. Amina closed her eyes and spoke inside her head. "Ifioma," she said silently. "We are ready." The lid calmed. The humming softened. Amina lifted the lid carefully. The well mouth opened, black and wet. Cold air rose like a whisper. She leaned over but not too far. She saw only her own face, small and brave, floating on the dark water. "If the other half is here, how do we bring it up?" she asked. Elder Nwaka lowered a rope with a small basket. Ikenna kept the drum steady. Ada Blue watched the rope sink. The rope went slack, then tightened, as if something below had gently taken hold. When the basket came up, it held only wet stones. People sighed. Some turned away. But Amina did not lose hope. She thought of the dream bells again. She remembered that the woman's feet were dusty, as if she had walked far. What if the other half was not in the well at all? "The baobab," she whispered. "The roots are old hands." She picked up the half calabash and placed it against the lid wood. It fit against a fresh crack as if it remembered the tree. A small sound clicked like a lock opening. Amina's heart jumped. "Ikenna," she said. "Drum the way the rain begins, slow then full." He nodded and played a growing rhythm. The ground seemed to answer with tiny knocks. Elder Nwaka listened with his eyes closed. He pointed to the ground beside the well where the earth looked a little raised, like a healed wound. "Dig there," he said. They used their hands, not tools. The dirt was soft, like it wanted to let go of a secret. Their fingers hit something smooth. Amina brushed the dirt away and found the other half of the calabash, wrapped in old blue cloth. Ada Blue gasped, then laughed without sound and clapped her hands. Even her silent joy felt loud. Elder Nwaka lifted the second half with care. The two pieces faced each other like lost twins. "Join them," he said to Amina. Her hands trembled. She pressed the halves together. First nothing happened. Then a thin line of light circled the seam, like the horizon before dawn. The humming turned into a low song. The song had no words, but it felt like a held breath finally let go. Ikenna's drum grew softer on its own, as if listening. A breeze moved through the market, and the lantern flames bowed. Amina looked into the calabash. For a heartbeat, she saw water, moonlight, and a woman's smile. Then the light faded. The calabash became only clay again, but it felt whole and it felt alive. "Now we must return it," Elder Nwaka said. "Where is her resting place?" Amina remembered the dream, the woman under the baobab. "There," she pointed. They carried the calabash to the tree. The silent traders made a path, touching Amina's arms as she passed, blessing her with their eyes. Mama Ife stood at the edge, tears on her cheeks, hands pressed together. Amina knelt at the roots. She placed the calabash in a small hollow and covered it with blue cloth. Ada Blue sprinkled water. Elder Nwaka broke the kola nut and placed the pieces in a circle. Ikenna tapped a gentle rhythm, like raindrops on a thatch roof. Amina spoke with simple words. "Ifioma, take back your song. We did wrong. Forgive us." For a moment nothing moved. Then the ankle bells sang, soft and true, though no one wore them. The baobab leaves shook though there was no wind. A warm wave rolled through the crowd. They held their breath together, a whole village waiting at one door. Ada Blue opened her mouth by habit, maybe to sing, maybe to shout. A small sound came, a tiny note like the first peep of a hatchling. She clapped her hands to her mouth, eyes huge. She tried again. "Amina," she croaked. The sound was broken but real. Ada fell to her knees, laughing and crying at once. The other silent traders touched their throats. One by one little sounds came out, whispers, coughs, bits of words, laughter like stones rolling. The crowd wept with joy. Amina smiled so hard her cheeks hurt. Ikenna hit a bright note on the drum that leaped like a fish. Elder Nwaka wiped his face with the back of his hand. Even Chief Obi took a deep breath and let out a shaky chuckle. But the well still hummed, low and steady like a reminder. Amina turned to the chief. "We must make a promise," she said. "A promise with a mark." The chief nodded, humbled. "Say it," he answered. "We will keep it." "Each market day," Amina said, "we will begin with a small moment of quiet. We will listen for the voices that are gone and for the ones that remain. We will give thanks before we sell. We will not take without return. If something is borrowed, it must go back. If a gift is given, we must honor it. The calabash must rest here, safe, with blue cloth, water and cola." Elder Nwaka tapped his staff. "So it will be," he said. The people agreed with a murmur like rain on leaves. But as they turned to go, the chief's guard ran up, face pale. He whispered in the chief's ear. The chief frowned. "Speak aloud," Elder Nwaka said. The guard swallowed. "A group of men," he said, "plan to take the calabash tonight and sell it to a trader from the city. They say it is only clay. They want money." Ada Blue shook her head, voice still weak. "No," she said. "Not again." Amina felt the ground tilt. The market had learned once, but not all hearts learn at the same time. Night came heavy as a pot of soup. The stars were small, as if they were afraid to look. Amina could not sleep. She lay awake and listened for footsteps. Mama Aoife sat by the door with a stick, eyes sharp. Around the baobab, Elder Nwaka and Ikenna made a circle of ash and chalk. They hung small bells from low branches. "If anyone steps inside, the bells will ring," Ikenna said. But the men were clever. They wrapped cloth around the bells to muffle them. They crawled like cats under the chalk line. Amina's skin prickled. She stood and touched Mama Aoife's arm. "I must go," she whispered. Her mother met her eyes and nodded once. "Be quick," she said. Amina slipped into the night, feet silent, heart loud. She reached the tree and saw 3 shadows bending over the blue cloth. One held a sack. Another whispered, "Take it. We can eat for months." Amina stepped from the dark. "No," she said, small but firm. The shadows froze. The men turned. One was Hugo, a man with a hungry family. Another was Dan, who liked the city and its shiny ways. The third was young Chitty, eyes wide, voice shaking. "Move, child," Dan hissed. "This is not your matter." Amina stood taller. "It is the market's matter," she said. "It is our breath." Hugo's face softened. He looked at the calabash and then at the night sky. "My children are thin," he whispered. "Coins are hard." Amina's voice gentled. "If you take this, everyone will lose again," she said. "Your children will eat, but they will have no song. They will have no stories. They will have no names in the drum." Chitty's hands trembled. "I do not want a curse," he said. Dan rolled his eyes. "Curses are stories to keep poor people poor," he snapped. He grabbed the calabash. The bells broke free of their cloth and rang bright and sharp. The air turned cold. The ground shook like a giant's whisper. A shadow formed by the roots, tall and thin, ankle bells glowing like fireflies. The men fell back. Dan dropped the calabash and it did not break. The shadow's face was not angry. It was sad, like a mother who has called a child many times. A sound rose, not loud but everywhere at once. The river, the wind, the hidden notes inside yam leaves. The shadow touched Dan's forehead. He saw himself as a small boy, singing with his grandmother at dawn. He began to cry softly. Hugo covered his face with his hands. Chitty knelt and pressed his head to the earth. Amina placed the blue cloth back over the calabash. "We are sorry," she whispered again. The shadow faded. The bells stilled. Ikena and Elder Nwaka ran up, breathing hard, followed by Mama Ife and half the village. They saw the men, the calabash, and the girl who had stood like a door. Ikena lifted his drum and played a single deep thank you note that rolled into every ear. Morning brought a soft gold light like a blessing. The market opened with careful joy. Traders set out goods, and before any coins moved, the whole market kept Amina's promise. They stood together in a quiet circle. Eyes closed, hands open. They listened to the birds, to the breath of neighbors, to the small sounds inside their own hearts. Then Elder Nwaka spoke. "We begin with thanks," he said. "We return what is not ours. We keep our word." The traders nodded. Coins moved. Voices stayed. Laughter rose high. Ada Blue sang a short song, voice still rough but sweet. The children danced with tiny steps, and even Chief Obi smiled without pride. He put his hand on Amina's head. "You are small," he said softly, "but your courage is wide." Amina smiled and ran to help Mama Ife roast maize. The smoke curled like writing in the air, and the smell was warm and honest. Days passed and the market healed. The story of the quiet curse became a new song. Visitors came from other villages to hear it and to learn the promise. They touched the baobab and left small gifts: beads, shells, fruit, a folded paper with a child's drawing. The calabash remained where it belonged, wrapped in blue, wet with fresh water each morning. Amina still dreamed of ankle bells, but now they rang. Sometimes she woke with a tune in her head and taught it to Ikena, who shaped it on the drum. The chief called for a small house to be built near the tree, not to lock the calabash, but to shelter it with quiet. He asked Elder Nwaka to teach the children the old stories every market eve. "We must feed wisdom," he said. His voice no longer tried to be bigger than the sky. It fit his mouth and heart. One afternoon, a stranger came with a heavy bag and restless eyes. He walked through the market and smiled too much. He asked odd questions. "How much for that old drum? How much for that carving? How much for the blue cloth by the tree?" People began to frown. Amina watched him. He moved like a person who listened only to money. He stood by the baobab and tried to step inside the chalk circle. The bells sang a clear warning. He laughed and said it was only wind. He reached for the cloth. Ada Blue stood firm. "No," she said, her voice strong now. "Not for money. Not for anything." The stranger shrugged and walked away, but his eyes glittered like fish scales. Amina followed at a distance. She saw him draw a map on paper, marking the tree and the well. She ran back and told Elder Nwaka. The elder sighed. "Greed has long legs," he said. "We must shorten its stride with truth." The elder called a meeting. He told the full story, from Ifeoma's first song to the night of the bells. He named the promise again so no one would forget. "A market is a mouth," he said. "It eats, speaks, blesses, can also bite. We decide which it will do by how we treat each other." The people listened and felt the truth land inside them like seed. The stranger stood at the edge, expression hard to read. When the elder finished, Amina raised her hand. "May I speak?" she asked. The elder nodded. "When I went to the well," Amina said, "I was afraid. My legs shook. But I felt a quiet voice inside me. It said, 'Return.' I think we all have that quiet voice. We must listen to it before we listen to coins." The crowd hummed with agreement. The stranger looked away. He left that evening, bag heavy, heart maybe a little lighter. Amina hoped so. On the next market day, rain threatened. Dark clouds gathered like elders in a secret meeting. Traders worried their goods would spoil. Amina felt worried too. If rain came, would buyers stay away? Then she remembered Ifeoma's first gift. She lifted her face to the sky and began to hum the low, simple tune she heard in dreams. Ikena's drum joined, warm and steady. Ada Blue added words that spoke of patience and seed. The market hummed together. The clouds listened, then softened. Rain fell, but gentle, the kind that blesses without spoiling. People laughed and danced in it. Children opened their mouths to drink the sky. The coins were few that day, but the smiles were plenty. No voices were lost. The well's hum was now like a friend's breath there, but not angry. The calabash rested, and the bells were silent in a good way. Seasons turned. New babies were named after songs. The market learned to begin with quiet and end with thanks. Amina grew taller. Her courage grew too, but it stayed soft. She did not become proud. She still helped Mama Aoife roast maize and wash the tray. Sometimes she sat under the baobab and told the story to younger children, using small words and big feelings. She would say, "Fear is loud but truth is steady," and they would nod eyes wide. Elder Nwaka's beard went whiter, and he smiled more. The chief listened more and boasted less. Ada Blue taught girls to sing and boys to listen. Hugo found honest work helping to build the small house by the tree. Dan left the village for a while and returned quiet, hands open, ready to serve. Chitty learned the drum and played with Ikenna on market mornings. One night, on the anniversary of the first silence, the village held a festival. Lanterns hung like small moons. Cloths of blue and white waved like rivers. Ikenna played, and the drum spoke of rain, goats, laughter, and work done well. Ada Blue led a song about promising and keeping. Elder Nwaka placed the calabash on a mat with flowers. Amina stepped forward, hands steady. "We stand here because we returned what we took," she said. "We stand here because we kept our word." The ankle bells sang once more, soft as breath. A gentle warmth touched every heart. People closed their eyes and saw memories. Grandmother's old markets, first songs, clean water, quiet mornings. They opened their eyes with tears and smiles. When the festival ended and the stars grew bright again, Amina walked with Mama Aoife through the sleeping market. The stalls were empty. The ground held the day's footprints. The well was quiet and kind. The baobab watched like a tall friend. "Mama," Amina said, "do you think Ifeoma hears us?" Mama Aoife squeezed her hand. "I think she hears what matters," she said. "And what matters is that we listen now. To her, to each other, to the voice inside." Amina nodded. She could feel that voice, small and steady like a drum in her chest. She closed her eyes and let the quiet fill her. It was not empty. It was full of care. She smiled, opened her eyes, and looked at her village. Aya Market was no longer a place that took voices. It was a place that gave them back, stronger, kinder, and true. And every new day, before the first coin, they remembered to listen.